Hello friends, it's been a while since I have been on here, but I have had a lot of uni work to do. I've been setting up my Etsy store to be physical rather than digital, which has come out of a weird time because now I'm thinking about going back to digital during this panic, self-isolation kind of society we're in right now. It's all really weird, isn't it? But I'm here, I am queer, I am trying to get some content out for you. I find these sorts of videos really calming and helpful to watch, where someone talks through their process of drawing things. And I wanted to do a couple of studies on different body parts, I guess. So what I'm planning to do is come out with a series of videos where I just draw things. I take the reference pictures myself. They'll be available for all my patrons. So I'll put up a folder on my Patreon with all these hand pictures, and I think I took quite a few. There are more poses than this one. I have like a pointing finger too. So that will be in the file for my patrons. I'll put the link in the description if you're interested in becoming a patron. You can support me for $1 a month and you get everything. If you want to if you want to support me with more than $1, then that is absolutely fine and more than welcome. But I just wanted to make it as equal/affordable as possible for as many people. First hand is done. I don't consider myself an expert at drawing hands by any means. I do enjoy them because they're quite detailed, and I find that the more detailed something is, the easier it is to draw, if that makes sense. I don't know, if I'm drawing faces or something, then I just get really panicky about the space in between features. So that's what puts me off, things like that. But with hands, there's just so much, so you can look at different aspects of the fingers and then measure where things go between things, if that makes sense. So with this drawing, for example, I was able to see that the thumb goes within the width of the pointer finger, and that's how I measured sort of things. So the way I draw hands is basically drawing out the main shape that I see, the like outside shape, and then I go in with like 5 lines and circle the knuckles, and I try and do it in a way that shows me the perspective of things. If you can hear my laptop screaming at me, I apologize. It's very slow and it is probably gonna blow up one day. But anyways, so after I do that, I do the outline and then I start going in with the shading. And sometimes if I'm really unconfident with my shading, I'll go around it really like roughly and kind of just shade in as if I'm colouring in a colouring book or something, and that'll kind of give me the guidelines. But when I get more confident with something, I'm able to like just freehand it and see where things go. And rather than just doing straight lines, which I know is some people's preferred method of doing things, I did used to do that, but then I found that it gave more life to the drawings that I had if I was drawing lines around the curves of the shapes. So if you can see, there's a slight curve to the lines on that thumb, and the same by the wrist at the bottom there. It kind of curves upwards. It's so slight that you can barely tell, but it makes a lot of a difference than if I just did a straight line. It kind of just shows that it's 3D. I also just moved these around because I decided that rather than doing 5 hands, I wanted to do 4. I'm moving on to a different pose now. This is sort of a fist, and I really struggled with this one because so many hand like studies that you see online are very thin. You can really see the structure of the hands, but because I'm a bigger person, you can't really see the structure as much. So I was really feeling like my hands were just looking like blobs, and I wasn't doing it right, and it was kind of cartoony. But I had to remind myself that it's probably because I'm just not used to seeing bigger hands as references for drawings, if that makes sense. So yeah, another thing I've started doing is doing a little dot on the line at the end of every line just to shade it out. I kind of spoke about this in my last video, I think, where I tried to make the shading not as harsh. You can kind of see in the first drawing, I went back on it and did some extra lines, but that compared to the last drawing that I did, the shading seems very harsh, and I think that's because there's less like little dots on the outside. So that's really interesting to look at if you're kind of comparing them to each other. This one was also really difficult. I felt like the proportions of the pointer finger when it was curled up was really off. I don't know if that's just in my mind or just weird, but looking at it now it looks okay, but when I was drawing it, it just felt really off. I really do like drawing hands in different shapes where you can see the structure of the hand. Like this one, you can see the really fleshy part of the palm, and I really like that. So I don't know, I feel like drawing hands is something I want to do more of. You can see that I was really struggling with the proportions here. Sometimes I'll draw like a really basic structure and then go over it and then get to the point where I'm outlining it and then be like, no, I need to restructure that. You can kind of see here I'm doing it. I don't know if you consider it like cheating to, when using digital art, to like cut and paste bits and distort them to look more realistic. I don't think I consider that cheating. I don't know if I consider anything cheating in art, really, because it's subjective. But you know what I mean. So yeah, I feel like I was hoping for a more prominent development. Like you could tell that I had developed my drawing more. I don't know if you can that much. I definitely feel like the first and the last hand of the row above have a few differences, and I really like the thumb and the palm of the upper right hands. I feel like they look really detailed, and that's the sort of thing I'd be looking for when I'm tracing, because those sorts of areas of shading make it look more realistic, and you can kind of really picture the light hitting the 3D object. And this is my last hand. I could have drawn a lot more like in between poses, but I thought these were like 4 was enough to kind of give you a general idea of what it's like 360. Is that 360? Maybe? Yeah, I guess. So yeah, fists are weird. I feel like they just look a bit like balls and they don't look right. But that's just because I feel like longer shapes are more interesting, so people tend to take pictures of that. I was also trying something very different here. I was gonna colour in the whole background yellow, and don't worry, I don't keep that because I don't know, I look at drawings from other people and I really love colourful art, and then when I do it I'm like, that is awful. So I went back to my original kind of way of doing things, and I just did boxes around everything, and I thought it kind of looked interesting, like different shapes and sizes behind each hand. I tried to make it look balanced whilst also being interesting and different. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if there are any other studies you want me to do, then let me know. Any questions you have, let me know. I'm definitely not an expert, but I do love to show my progress. So yeah, let me know what you're doing this week or month or in the future if you're at home, and I'll see you soon. Bye.